Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Jessica. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can, actually.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
So, what time is it there in Toronto right now?
Right now it's 9:30 a.m. So
Okay.
it's work day. Yeah, we just started work. We start around 8:30,
Yeah.
and I believe it's 7 p.m. in India.
Yeah, it's 7 p.m. right here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
great. So, how does your Monday look like, huh?
It's not too busy, but I've got a bunch of work that I need to put aside. So right after the live session, I'm going to get onto it. But at least I don't have meetings today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is packed with meetings, but today is no meeting, so it's just ideal to do this live session.
Yes, great, great. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll give a brief intro about you to our viewers. So, Ms. Nath is in management at York University, and in the past, she has administered and taught in University of Toronto, Upper Canada College, and British School, New Delhi, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's absolutely.
in British School, New Delhi, you were IBDP coordinator there. Wow, which is just wow. You also have a background from CBSE school, DPS Mathura Road, yeah?
Absolutely right.
Yes.
I've taught in DPS Mathura Road, and the
Yeah,
trajectory is started at DPS Mathura Road, and from there on went to British School, taught the
yeah,
English curriculum, you know, CBSE and DPS, and then
yes,
English National Curriculum IB and
yeah,
IGCS British School, and then became the Key Stage 5 coordinator, and then
yeah,
as a DP coordinator as well. I mean, in a sense, and then moved on to Canada in 2008. And from there on, I've also taught and coordinated, in different schools. I was a
yeah,
director English language school prior to York University. So
yeah.
that has been my trajectory, and now I've been in
Wow.
York University for about 4.5 years. So I
Yeah.
think I'm settling in.
Yeah, wow, what a journey, what a journey. So I have been getting a lot of queries, and there have been a lot of parents who are talking to him about IB curriculum and IB sessions. Many of them looking forward to IB as the future curriculum, but yet they are little confused about what IB as an education is going to provide to their own child. So if you could just throw some light on what do you see as the benefits of IB education?
That's a very good question, and thank you for it. I mean, IB is just positive all around, and I've had the opportunity to be completely immersed in IB at the British School in UCC, which is Upper Canada College here. It's one of the premium schools, where the Prime Minister and President of the country came out from. So it's like
Yeah.
for the Indian context, it is a very sort of high-end private school here in Canada, and very well sorted after. And it's got the PYP, MYP, and DP, which is primary years program, middle years program, and diploma program. So that is a validation in itself. A school like that subscribing to a course of this nature.
Yeah.
I say that IB is positive all around because I always sort of direct the parents towards the IB profile. If you look at the profile, I mean, I'm a curriculum designer, and when I look at the profile, it just speaks for itself. It builds inquirers, knowledgeable learners, thinkers, communicators, principals. So it's all around positive if you're just looking at the curriculum. But if you're going outside of the curriculum, you're looking at the international impact of IB. IB is almost like a pathway program to university. So if you are international minded, if you go global minded, and you're looking at, okay, possibly my child tomorrow is going to go into outside of India, into
Mm.
universities in UK, America, North America, Canada, for that matter. IB is definitely a positive because it's building a global mind. It is building a rounded cultural mind, and not insular in a certain way that traditional schools, and I have taught in a traditional school, a CBSE school, not to negate a CBSE school or a traditional school. in any way. But just saying, what do you want in the end? You want to send your child internationally, then definitely subscribe to IB. If you want your child to have a global, rounded personality, you anyway subscribe to IB. So IB is a positive all around. What do you think, Jessica?
Oh, well, I think very well said and very well quoted. I would say that IB students develop a very strong academic and social emotional characteristics. Unlike any other curriculum, if you see around the world, they're encouraged to think critically and to solve complex problems. They drive their own learning, they construct their own learning. The core part of the education program that can lead them to some highest ranking universities around the world. That's one of the best and the leveraging point for IB application. If you look clearly, if you dig deeper, you will also understand that how IB students are more culturally aware. They engage with people in an increasingly globalized and rapidly changing world. Students at IP World Schools are given unique and challenging and diverse education. In fact, to summarize, I would just say that IB diploma holder would have benefits of high acceptance rate globally, holistic approach. Basically, it goes beyond the classroom. It focuses on the fullest possible development of the child. International mindedness, they work with global context, as you already mentioned. They are lifelong learners. They learn in any environment. They learn from anything. The acceptability of an IB child is so much more than any other curriculum. They are risk takers. They're not scared of stepping into a new environment. They're not afraid of approaching uncertainties. They're taught to be independent. They are strategy builders. They are expressive. Also, as they work with global context, they learn to appreciate different cultures around the world. They're open to different perception, they value and traditions of the people. An IB diploma holder, I think, is believed to have creative ways of dealing everyday problems in much better way. So yes, I would truly agree to what you have said, that parents need to be a little foresighted when they are choosing the curriculum for their child.
Absolutely. I just want to add two more points that came to mind. One is, there's a cap on the number of students you have in IB
Yeah.
classroom. So coming from all perspectives, I mean, a smaller classroom is definitely a positive. So IB makes sure, because it's accredited the school, so the school has to follow, all of the rules and regulations, not more than 25 students in a classroom.
Yeah.
Whereas, in a traditional school, it could go up to 45 to 52. And I have taught, a class with a big number such as that. No matter how much you strive to give that individual attention to the student, it is impossible. It is humanly impossible to do that in a big classroom. So the strength, there's a cap on it. That's one. So not more than 25 students. Also, I was looking at numbers, and I was like, there are 5,000 plus IB schools in the world. There are about in 130 plus countries, which makes it exclusive and not general in any way. Because the minute you're exclusive and you come on this side, because I'm in university and we look at applications, we look at, students sort of cutoffs and entry points. The minute you're exclusive, you're put in a separate pile. So you're definitely given that leverage, over the other students that are coming from a traditional school. And I want to extrapolate a little bit over here about a pathway, which we specialize in York University. So, for example, the program that I administer is a pathway program. What exactly, in essence, it means is we are integrating a acculturation, okay, that is missing in traditional schools into the student before they go into university. So the student comes in, like 2 or 3 months before the university starts in September, and they come into our department and in our programs, and that's where we give them the acculturation, the academic acculturation. And in a sense, I mean, there's another program that I've recently designed, which is called the Academic Acculturation Training Program, where the students come in. But all of this is not needed if you're an IB student.
Yeah.
So, this is just one example of giving you, the value IB curriculum will bring onto the table, and, expedite your admission into university.
Yes, yes, definitely. But I'm sure there are loads of benefits, but everything which has benefits, I'm sure there are limitations as well. So, what do you think? What is the limitation of IB education?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I'm asked this question, none that cannot be overcome. That's what I feel. And
Yeah,
the reason I'll tell you why. Okay, IB schools, maybe in India and in Middle East, and other places, are private schools, so they can be a bit expensive. But I'm not too sure. Maybe, the other traditional schools are also as expensive and very sort of well reputed. So you have to weigh, you have to see what you can afford. um, IB student is expected to be extremely disciplined and organized. I'll tell you why. There are deadlines, okay,
yeah,
and there are limited expectations, especially in DP. When you're doing the diploma, which you're doing grade 11 and 12 and 13 in some cases. In the British school, it's 13.
yeah,
There are deadlines because it's a standardized program. Exams come in from the head office, that is the global office, Zurich. Okay, so there is only a limited extension your teacher can give you. So if you are falling, behind meeting your deadlines, that could be a negative. So, and how do you meet deadlines? We have like workshops on that, for students, which is the number one rule is stay organized. If you're organized and you are sort of keeping up with all of the expectations that are given, the course outlines that are given, the calendars that are given to you right in the beginning, if you're
yeah.
just keeping up with that, it just goes extremely smoothly. So that could be one negative or drawback. You've got to be hardworking. You just can't say, okay, last minute I will come and study. And
Yeah.
that cannot happen. So you have to be consistent.
Yes.
So that is called a drawback. I don't know. But, and finally, I also want to say, on a positive note, I mean, I was looking at results in various schools without quoting anyone because I don't want to quote, another school that I'm not working in. But the
Yeah.
positive thing is in the COVID times, of course, like any other schools gone online,
Hmm.
similarly, schools have gone online, but many of the schools are giving out 100% passing results. So that's a positive. So it's completely doable. So if you're signing up for it, just mentally prepare. Know that you have to be disciplined and organized and consistent with what you're studying.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree. There are no limitations that can't be overcome when you talk about IB. In my opinion, too, IB is a complex curriculum and it is lengthy, which requires students to be organized and along with the proper management skills, which is very, very important. In fact, it is a life lesson, if you ask me. There is a very famous quote from 19th century philosopher. I'm sure you must have heard. Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah,
What does not kill me makes me stronger.
yeah,
Often seems to ring true for an IB student. If the students offers holistic education incorporating languages, humanities, maths, science, and arts, and not to forget that services are one of the most important component when we talk about IB education. So the workload is intense. Anyone who has survived the program will not tell you otherwise. So,
yeah.
as you've already mentioned, that the child should be consistent and organized and disciplined. And if this is a limitation, so yes, there it is.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes,
Not a limitation that cannot be overcome, like you said.
yes, absolutely. Ms. Nath, when we talk about education, we always talk about that how education impacts a child. So here, when we are talking and discussing about IB, please just throw some light on what impact do you think an IB education will have on your child's life?
Absolutely. Um, we talked about how the student becomes a global learner. We talked about how the student, becomes open-minded and very accepting to other cultures. We talked about all of this, but few other things that come to mind is, the programs that are compulsory in a DP, in IB diploma program, which is CAS and TOK, which is,
Yeah.
I'm sure, I know that parents over here, for them, these terminologies are foreign, but
Yeah.
is theory of knowledge. So when teacher is teaching theory of knowledge, what is the teacher teaching the student? The teacher student teaching the student to be critically sort of a critical thinker. So what does that essentially mean? I mean, this word and phrase is going around and everybody says critical thinker, but out of the box thinker. And theory of knowledge subject actually teaches you how to be that. So you ask good questions. Now, what are not good questions? Not good questions are, a question with an answer that'll just have an answer why and what. But a good question is not just got a rhetorical answer, but an answer that'll explain why you asked that question. So while it is sounding a little complicated in what I'm saying, I mean, you just essentially need to understand as a parent that your child is going to actually be questioning, not you, but questioning why they're studying what they're studying. And the answers will be given to them. So that's one. The other program that comes to mind is CAS, which is community work. I remember, when I was at the British School in New Delhi, we took the students to Himachal in a village, and they stayed there for about 15 days. And they actually, all of around the fall, the fruit falls and it decays. They actually collected that and made a machine that would dry up the fruit and save it for the villagers. Now, these are kind of extra things that students end up doing in IB.
Wow.
And I'm just being very, very short because I know I see the time. I also wanted to, just a few examples. This is what is built in an IB school.
Yes.
So traditional schools don't do that. I have been in a traditional school. A traditional school will go for a school trip for sure. Everybody will party and come back. But here, there's a focus. An assignment and a project has been given to the students and they have to complete it. And a meaningful project that actually benefited the village in question till today. And, we get feedback from that village because some of my friends live there. So this is the impact. Again, once you're in university, the payoffs are enormous. If you're a DP student, you acquire the confidence right from the word get-go. You're in university, you start, and the confidence exudes in the classroom in front of the teachers and professors, etc. You immediately, right at the bat, engage in the school community. I have seen the difference. I mean, I'm on the other side at university, and I see the difference of an IB student as opposed to a traditional, with a little bit of sort of fear in the beginning, inhibitions in the beginning, but an IB student is far more confident. So I have many more examples, but I'd like to hear from you as well.
I'm so stunned to listen to the example that you just gave. I mean, such nice thinking. So I think the IB's impact is absolutely clear. Creating a world through education, a better world through education, to increase access to excellent education to students of all backgrounds, wherever they are. To have positive impact on the lives of millions of people worldwide. As you've already mentioned, that British school, when you were teaching in British school, they created that machine. That thinking where they're thinking about other people. It is so important. That thinking to give service, to make this world a better place. It's absolutely phenomenal when we see students doing that. As teachers, I'm sure we both know what that feeling is all about. So child gets to know himself as a learner. It's a journey that every child learns differently, and IB gives that chance to learners to explore themselves and take their learning forward in the way they want to. IB just doesn't teach students content or knowledge, but it also teaches them how to learn and how to think. how to go beyond those four walls. Learning is based on real world situations, which are, not only making it more interesting, but also helping students to understand the relevance of what they are learning. It is so important for them to understand that what they are learning. It's not that they have to cram it and they have to pass an exam. It's about what they can do with their learning, how they can apply. It is experiential learning. It is application based learning, where we all want to understand and we all want our child to reflect on how the world works. Students
Absolutely.
are taught to think conceptually, which allows them to apply their knowledge to various different situations, which we do not even see. I have studied in a CBSE school, and I know that I was not given that option. I used to hate math myself, but when I teach math to my second grade child, I totally understand that, oops, why was I not given that opportunity to, learn math like this? I would have loved it probably.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
when we talk about IB's impact, so global skill development, practical learning, and overall development of personality. I think that's what makes the child a future global citizen when we talk about IB as an education. When we talk about IB's impact, that's the skill development we are looking forward to. That's the global context that we talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And many schools have AP, of course. They're offering many other robust curriculums like applied program, and we've got IGCSE. They're wonderful programs, curriculums. They also have experiential learning. But what I feel demarcates IB from even these programs, these Pardela excellent programs,
Yeah.
curriculums, is the standardization, the global standardization. So what happens is when you are standardized, okay, so when you're standardized across the world, you can, so one parent recently quoted this to me, said, one of the wonderful aspects of IB is I changed 3 continents in the last 2 years. And my daughter's education, because she's taking IB, did not have any sort of impact negatively, because wherever we went, it's the same standardized program. You're studying the same textbooks. You're doing the same thing. It's just the school sort of vicinity or the area, physical area has changed.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that is what is also kind of removes it a little from the other programs, makes it a little better. I also feel the confidence that you talked about. I have seen it recently. So I am a mentor for teachers, for students, and sometimes just being Indian in Toronto, automatically if there's a friend's daughter or son coming here, um, I become an automatic sort of local guardian, advisor, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But I've seen the difference in these students. The student coming from India with an IB curriculum as opposed to traditional. So I was talking about, I mean, there's a whole lot of difference. And um, I'm not saying traditional schools, the student has gotten zero knowledge, has got a lot of knowledge. I'm just talking, if you're just talking about confidence and the global sort of footprint that the student's got. In IB, the student is well versed with what is happening all around the world in terms of academic curriculum.
Yeah, because when you talk about IB's impact, it is very important to understand that subjects are not taught in isolation. They are very well connected with each other, and it also gives chance to students to reflect on how the world works.
Yeah.
As I already mentioned, that how important it is for a student to think conceptually, how important it is for a student to understand that now I have learned, and now how I can apply the same knowledge in different situations to solve my problems. So global skill development is definitely happening, practical and experiential learning. overall development of the personality that you already mentioned, that it's not that we are trying to say that the traditional schools do not have students who have good knowledge. They are excellent. In fact, their knowledge is commendable. But when we talk about overall development, when we talk about holistic approach, that somewhere goes missing, right?
Yeah. And I also want to say, interdisciplinary is my passion. So what happens in for example, a history classroom, you're integrating English. So we in IB diploma, I mean, don't get scared, but there are about 15 textbooks that you study. So you are integrating, but some of the students enjoy those textbooks. I
Yeah.
mean, like it's in the tune of, Catcher in the Rye, Kublai Khan, Kafka. I mean, it's a amalgamation of different writers, and it's very interesting. But what I was saying was, like you mentioned, subjects related to each other. So we call it interdisciplinary education.
Yeah.
That is the sense of IB. So, a history teacher will tell you how it is connected with your English textbook, for example, a topic connected with literature, or a math will tell you how it is connected to another, again, history, not how is it connected to physics and biology, but completely different. So those connections are what are really missing in a traditional school, because in a traditional school, it is being taught in isolation. So very good point, Jessica.
Yeah. So coming to the point where we talk about that, does an IB educated student have any leverage in the US or Canada or any other international country?
Unbelievably so. So I'll just quote, I'll of course quote one of the best Ivy League schools, which is Harvard. I mean, I was just looking at their statistics, and there's a 5.1% chance of enrollment. Just if you're just looking at the curriculum, we're not looking at, other aspects or check boxes for an application to get in, but we're just looking at IB versus traditional school. So there's a 5.1 acceptance rate in Harvard for a traditional school, as opposed to a 12.2 acceptance rate for an IB student.
Wow.
So that's almost more than double. And just talking about my university, York University, I mean, applications are put in a separate pile in the other universities in the world. If you're an IB student, it has got definitely in a hierarchy of jump start from the other applications. Of course, I mean, we also need to see how you're writing your application, how you're putting in your letter, and your references, etc. But just I'm talking about the piles and the hierarchy in evaluation in the admission office. Definitely an IB applicant is over an AP or a traditional school applicant, for sure. That is one. I also, what does a university office or an admission office look? What does it want in a student? It wants to see whether the student has enhanced research skills. Because at a university, right off the bat, at least in North America and Canada, you start with research. And we want to see whether you have effective research skills. You can research, you know what is research. You know what is inference. You know what is, ambiguity. All of these things in a traditional school, and I've taught in a traditional school for so many years, are not leveraged so often. You want to see how evolved the student is in the academic acculturation capacity. Whether the student is educated in citation, small examples. Do you know what is plagiarism?
Yeah.
And how is it different from cheating? Do you know MLA, APA citation? Do you know all of these things? So we know if an IB school student is coming, that student would know. Again, I want to say, like, my pathway program at York University teaches all of this to the students who are non-IB. Okay, so those acculturation programs are in place, but for a non-IB. So to answer your question, definitely an IB school. I'm looking at the time. I think we are over time, and I'm very mindful of it. But definitely an IB student will excel, in an application process at the university.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for putting this in, because I also truly understand when you say that an IB child would know what plagiarism is, an IB child would understand how it is different from cheating. Even a grade 2 IB child understands this. So when you talk about that, and at university level, students who have come from non-IB background, you have to teach them this. This in itself shows, and it itself explains that how IB is a leveraging point, not because only you've come from a curriculum which is globally accepted. It is also because that you develop such skills in your child to go further. You develop those day-to-day intercultural communication skills, soft skills, appropriate language skills, and so many other skills, where we talk about that how a child can actually move forward without interrupting in between. I mean, it is wonderful to see how students can go ahead. And thank you so much for explaining it so well. Now we know, I'm sure all the parents who are watching this, they know that the IB child is in a separate pile when they apply in Harvard or any other university. Um, but what do you do? What do you think that in the absence of an IB school, what are the shortcomings, and how do we fill that gap?
Absolutely. So the shortcomings are basic. The shortcomings are, the academic criteria. For example, like I was talking about the program that I designed recently. So that is the academic acculturation program. So I looked at, CBSE curriculum in detail, and then me and my team, of course, identified the gaps. Okay, what are the gaps that need to be filled? And this program facilitated those gaps. So in the absence of IB, there are these gaps, and I mentioned some of them, to you. Plagiarism. What is the research skills? It's a vast topic. You really need to know how to write a research essay. You really need to know how to peruse the library, for example. A university library looks very different from another library. You really need to know what journals are acceptable. I'll give you an example. A colleague of mine in another university, I'm not going to name the university, published a book, and she just happened to quote from another book that of her own that she had published earlier, and that was and without citing it, and that was considered plagiarism. Okay, so citations so important in North America. So these are the gaps. The Indian student doesn't know that, traditional school student. Okay, and you can actually be penalized heavily for this particular thing. I mean, if you plagiarize, you can actually lose that credit, and you can just go back into, you can not only just lose the credit, but you can lose a lot of other, your reputation, etc., at university. So these things are taken very seriously. Inference, like I said, all of these things, these are gaps that a traditional student, from a traditional curriculum, you have to identify, and that's what we do as curriculum builders. We identify, we make new programs, we offer them, and one of my program is academic acculturation. If any of the school is listening right now, I'd like to say, please come into York University ULE, York University English Language Institute, and sign up for that program on our website, and I've hashtagged it. But yeah, those are the gaps, if you're not an IB student.
Thank you so much. I'm sure parents listening to this would have got a good insight of IB and how IB can be a leveraging point when they are looking forward to careers and international universities. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jessica. It was a pleasure talking to you. Let's do this more often.
Yes,